أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. The Quran draws a picture of two armies, one that fight for the sake of Allah and another that fight for the sake of Taghut. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ الطَّاغُوتِ وَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. Those who believe fight in the cause of Allah, and those who disbelieve fight in the cause of Taghut. So fight against the allies of Satan. Indeed, the plot of Satan is ever weak. So this verse reveals the nature of two paths. There is no neutrality. Every person aligned with one of these two armies, the army of Allah or the army of Taghut. Today we will explore the third characteristic of Taghut, the armies and forces that fight to preserve systems of falsehood and disbeliefs like democracy, and how they oppose Allah's guidance. So Taghut represents anything or anyone that rebels against Allah's authority. This includes armies, organizations, and governments that do not derive their legitimacy from Allah and do not fight to establish His word. These forces exist to promote and protect a system of disbelief, corruption, and tyranny. So for a Muslim, it is essential for his faith to reject these armies because Taghut cannot coexist with Tawhid. The Qur'an gives us clear guidance on this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't differentiate a tyrant with his people, with the person and the people who support this system. Both are held accountable, as we can see in the history of Pharaoh. Pharaoh is a prime example of Taghut in history. Allah describes him as one who transgressed all bounds. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go to Pharaoh, for he has truly transgressed all limits, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa alayhi salam, to Moses. Pharaoh divided his people into factions, weakening them by oppressing one group and favoring another. He forced the oppressed to serve as soldiers of his tyranny. إن فرعون علا في الأرض وجعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم يذبح أبناءهم ويستحيي نساءهم إنه كان من المفسدين. Indeed, Pharaoh exalted himself in the land and made its people into factions, oppressing a group among them, slaughtering their sons, and keeping their women alive. Indeed, he was one of the corruptors. Pharaoh's power lay in his army, men who enabled his tyranny by following blindly his commands. Allah equates Pharaoh's crimes with those of his soldiers. Together, they were responsible for oppressing the people of Israel and waging war against divine guidance. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُمَكِّنَ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنُرِيدُ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا مِنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. And to establish them in the land, and through them show Pharaoh, Haman, and their soldiers the fulfillment of what they feared. Pharaoh and his soldiers were destroyed together. They perished in this world when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drowned them in the sea all together. And in the hereafter, they will perish together. So we seized him and his soldiers and threw them into the sea. See then what was the end of the wrongdoer. The story of Pharaoh is not a history. It is a warning for the people of today, of our modern time. Many modern governments and armies operate in ways similar to Pharaoh's. They do not derive their legitimacy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather from human ideologies like secularism, nationalism, or democracy. These armies exist to protect systems that defy Allah's laws, promoting ideologies that oppose Tawhid. These armies enforce laws that contradict the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Their force is used to silence the call to Tawhid, oppress the people, oppress the Muslim or only the people who don't want to align with secular values. As believers, we must ask ourselves, are we aligning with these forces, either directly or indirectly? Supporting such armies is incompatible with Islam, because rejecting Taghut is the first condition of La ilaha illallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to dissociate ourselves from all forms of Taghut, including armies that promote and protect these systems. But there are also today some people that say, we don't have the choice. We need to vote for democracy. We need to go to secular school. We have to go into these armies, join these armies. We don't have the choice. The Quran also addresses those who claim that they were forced to do so. During the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some Muslims stayed in Mecca, even though they were commanded to immigrate to Medina. So when the time of the Battle of Badr came, they fought alongside with the disbelievers. Despite their claim that they were compelled to do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed their accountability. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا فَأُولَئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمُ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. When the angels take the souls of those who wronged themselves, they will ask, where were you? Which side were you on? They will reply, we were oppressed in the land, forced to align with the ranks of the polytheists, helpless. The angels will say, was Allah's earth not spacious enough for you to immigrate? Such people will have hell as their home. What an evil destination. This teaches us that as a Muslim, we must avoid aligning with Taghut under any circumstance, even if it requires great sacrifice. Every Muslim must decide which side they stand on, Allah's path or Taghut's path. There is no third option. Pharaoh's example serves as a reminder that no power, no army, and no ideology can prevail against Allah's will. Let us ensure that our fight, our sacrifices, and our struggles are solely for Allah's cause, not for systems that oppose His guidance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to reject Taghut and stand firm in our faith. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.